Aloha and welcome to Angela Bright Reads. I'm so happy you're here. My stories are original and I use AI tools in the production process to help create the narration and visuals you see on this channel. To read the fully expanded versions of my stories, visit me on Inkit at Angela Bright. Now settle in and enjoy the story. Chapter 9. Aria. The bell kept tolling, one slow note after another, trembling through the black crystal walls until even the rune cord around my wrists seemed to hum in answer. Landor was inside the ruins. Every part of me wanted to reach for him. Every trained part of me knew better. The bond was still smothered beneath eclipse magic, but the single word I had managed to send had cost me more strength than I wanted to admit. Pain pulsed behind my eyes. My wolf paced beneath my skin, furious and caged. Not yet. The door opened again. This time, Seraphine entered alone. Her flawless hair remained pinned in place, her white gown untouched, but anger moved beneath her calm. It showed in the sharpness of her steps, in the shadows curling at the hem of her skirts, in the violet fire gathering between her fingers. "Your king is persistent," she said. "My king is loyal." Her gaze snapped to mine. For the first time I saw something crack through her elegance. Hatred, yes, but beneath it, pain so old it had fossilized. "No king is loyal," she said. There it was, not strategy, wound. She moved to the wall across from me and pressed her palm against the crystal. Silver light spread beneath her hand, opening the stone into an image, a memory. The chamber disappeared. In its place stood a throne room older than any I had ever seen, built of white stone and moonlit glass. A woman stood beside the throne wearing a crown of silver branches. Seraphine. Not as she was now, younger, warmer, alive in a way the woman before me no longer was. Beside her stood an alpha king with cold eyes and a beautiful face, and in the shadow of a pillar another woman watched him, dark-haired, soft-eyed, one hand curved protectively over her stomach. "Eloin," Seraphine said, and the name itself sounded poisoned. His fated mate. The memory shifted. The king's hand at Eloin's waist. Seraphine standing alone in a corridor, seeing them through a half-open door. No sound came through the vision, but I did not need it. Some betrayals had their own language. My breath slowed. "You were his Luna," I said. "I was his queen," Seraphine answered. "Chosen, crowned, trained, bound to him before the Pax, before the moon, before every oath this kingdom claimed to honor." The image changed again. Seraphine kneeling before a hooded sorceress beside a dark well beneath an eclipsed moon. The moon well. The water inside it was black glass. "I begged for justice," she said. "I begged for the power to end a line of kings who would use one woman for a crown and another for a bed." The sorceress touched Seraphine's face with fingers tipped in shadow. "A bargain. A curse." "What was the price?" I whispered. Seraphine smiled, but there was no joy in it. To live until my revenge was complete. I already knew there was more. And? The violet fire dimmed. To never love again. For one moment, I saw her clearly. Not only the sorceress who had taken me, not only the enemy who had hunted Landor's blood, a woman who had once been wounded so deeply she chose revenge over healing, then paid by losing the very thing she had been desperate to receive. Love. The memory shifted once more. Eloin stood in a nursery, blood on her white dress, the infant heir cradled behind her. Men wearing Seraphine's eclipsed moon pressed toward her. Eloin was shaking, but she did not move aside. "She died for him," I said. "She died for the child." Seraphine's voice hardened. "And the kingdom made a saint of her in secret. The mistress became the mother of your hidden Luna vow. Her sacrifice protected the line I was promised would end." Now I understood. The hidden Lunas had not begun with Seraphine. They had begun with Eloin, not the crowned Luna, the fated mate, a woman loved dishonorably by a selfish king, yet still willing to stand between death and an innocent child. That sacrifice had become a shield. Generation after generation of women had inherited her vow, her courage, her death, and perhaps her mistake. We had been taught to protect from a distance, to remain hidden, to love lightly, if we loved at all. But Elawin had not died because she loved too much. She had died because the king had loved too little. The truth struck so quietly I almost missed it. The curse had not survived because Lunas failed to protect their kings. It had survived because kings failed to love their Lunas. Seraphine stepped closer, misreading my silence. Now you know what you guard. Not honor, not destiny. A rotten line born from divided vows. Landor is not that king. Her laugh was soft and terrible. They never are at first. The bond pulsed, silver warmth against the dark, closer. Landor was fighting his way toward me. Seraphine felt something too. Her head turned toward the hall, irritation flashing across her face. Good. Let him draw her eye. Let her think the danger was coming from outside the chamber. I shifted my wrist, slow enough to hide the movement in the fall of my torn sleeve. Earlier, when the nervous guard had fled, he had dropped one key from his belt. It had slid beneath the edge of the sleeping mat, no larger than my thumb, black against black crystal. I had spent the last tolling bells working it toward me with my heel. Now it touched my palm. Seraphine turned back. I went still. "You are not listening," she said. "I am." "No, you are hoping." I lifted my eyes to hers. "That must offend you." Something dangerous moved across her face. Then another crash echoed from somewhere above us, followed by the unmistakable snarl of a silver wolf. Landor. Seraphine's smile returned. "He is nearly here. Good. Let him see what every Alpha King becomes when the choice is placed before him." "What choice?" "The same one." She bent close, her winter-pale eyes bright with centuries of hunger. The crown or the woman, the line or the Luna, his future or yours. My fingers closed around the key. The rune cord clicked once, softly, freeing one wrist. Seraphine did not hear it over the next crash, but I did. And for the first time since I had been dragged into the dark, I smiled without pretending. "You still do not understand," I said. Seraphine paused. Above us, the ruins shook. I let the loosened cord slide into my hand. "You think I was trained to die for my king." I rose just as the chamber door burst inward. Landor's silver wolf filled the entrance, blood on his fur and fury in his eyes. I looked at him and felt the bond flare gold beneath the smoke. But I think I was trained to live long enough for him to prove that not every king betrays his Luna.
Chapter 10. Landor. Aria was standing, bound, bruised, pale from poison, surrounded by black crystal and violet smoke. But standing. For one breath my wolf and I were only rage. Then her words reached me. Not every king betrays his Luna. The bond flared between us, gold beneath the eclipse magic, bright enough that every shadow in the chamber recoiled. Aria felt it too. I saw it in the way her hand pressed briefly over her ribs, in the way her green eyes locked on mine with something stronger than relief. Trust. Seraphine turned toward me slowly. "Alpha King Landor," she said. At last. I shifted before she finished my name. Silver Wolf became man. Claws became hands. Fury remained. Edrin and the others moved into the chamber behind me, weapons drawn, but I lifted one hand to hold them back. This place was built for traps, and Seraphine wanted an audience. Her gaze moved over me, measuring. "You have your ancestor's face. I am not my ancestor. No king ever believes he is." Aria shifted slightly, and I saw the rune cord loose in one hand. Her other wrist remained bound to the wall, but the angle of her body told me everything. She had not been waiting for rescue. She had been waiting for timing, my wife, my Luna, my mate. Seraphine saw the direction of my attention and smiled. "Beautiful, isn't she? They always are, at the beginning. Beautiful, dutiful, desperate to believe the crown will honor what the bond demands." "Release her," I said. "No." The word was almost gentle. Then the chamber changed. The black crystal beneath our feet split with silver light, and the floor lowered in a slow, terrible circle. Edrin shouted behind me, but a wall of violet flame rose between us, sealing me, Aria, and Seraphine apart from the others. The chamber sank into the earth. Stone slid upward around us. The air turned colder. When the floor stopped moving, we stood in a cavern beneath the ruins. At its center lay a dark well rimmed in moonstone, its water black and perfectly still. The moon well. Aria's face went still. Seraphine walked to the edge of it. This is where I begged for justice. This is where I was promised the Alpha line would end. The water stirred. Images moved across its surface. A crowned woman abandoned in a corridor. A cold king reaching for another woman. A young fated mate dying over an infant's cradle. Lunas through the centuries drinking poison meant for kings, stepping between blades, bleeding in secret rooms, smiling in court while death waited under their skin. My mother appeared last. Dana, younger than I remembered, one hand on Aria's shoulder. Then Dana in bed, gray with sickness that had never been sickness. My control nearly broke. Aria looked at the image, grief moving through her face before she mastered it. Seraphine watched us both. You see? Your line survives because women die for it. No, Aria said softly. It survives because women were brave enough to protect innocent lives. Seraphine's mouth twisted. Pretty words from a woman raised for slaughter. The well rippled. Violet light rose from it and wrapped around Aria's bound wrist. She stiffened, teeth clenched, but did not cry out. I moved toward her. Seraphine lifted one finger and the light tightened. Another step, and it takes her blood now. I stopped. Every part of me rebelled. Here is the choice, Seraphine said. The choice every king makes. The Luna's blood can seal the curse for one more generation. Your line continues. Your kingdom remains whole. Your future heir survives the darkness hunting your throne. Aria's gaze snapped to mine, not pleading, never pleading, warning. Seraphine's voice softened. Or you can spare her and watch the curse take everything. Your crown, your bloodline, your legacy, all because you could not do what kings have always done. The Moonwell showed me a vision, a son I did not have, a kingdom at peace, Aria's grave beneath silver blossoms. No. The image shattered inside me before it could settle. I looked at Aria, not the crown, not the well, her. She stood with one wrist chained and one hand free, chin lifted, pain held back by sheer will. The woman I had touched with reverence. The woman who laughed at my worst jokes. The woman who had been trained to die for me before I ever had the decency to love her aloud. The truth came clean and whole. There was no kingdom worth building on her blood, no line worth preserving through her death, no crown I wanted if wearing it meant becoming the man Seraphine had cursed. I turned from the Moonwell. Seraphine's face changed. Choose carefully. I have. Aria's lips parted. I took one step toward my wife. The violet light snapped tighter around her wrist. A line of blood appeared against her skin. I kept walking. Seraphine's voice rose. Your line will end. Then let it end with me. The chamber shook. Seraphine went still. What did you say? I reached Aria and closed my hand around the rune cord binding her to the wall. It burned my palm at once, eating into skin, but I did not release it. I will not buy a throne with my Luna's life. The gold in the bond surged. Aria's free hand covered mine. Landor, she whispered. I looked at her then fully. I love you. The words left me without ceremony, without strategy, without fear. I should have told you before they took you. I should have told you every morning you pulled away and every night you came back to me. I love you, Aria, not because you are my Luna, not because you are my queen, because you are mine and I am yours, and no curse, crown, or bloodline will make me trade you for a future I would not want without you in it. The rune cord cracked. Gold light poured from the break. Aria stared at me, tears bright in her eyes. Then she smiled, small, shaking, real. I love you too, she said. The Moonwell erupted. Black water rose in a column, and Seraphine screamed, not in victory but in pain. Shadows tore from the walls, rushing toward us. Aria moved first, snatching the hidden blade from her sleeve and slashing through the last of the cord. I caught her as she stumbled, then pulled her behind me as the chamber split open around us. But Aria did not stay behind me. She stepped beside me. Of course she did. Together we faced the well. Gold light burned through the bond between us, threading around my hands, her blade, our joined shadows on the crystal floor. Seraphine backed away, horror replacing triumph. "No," she whispered. "No king chooses the Luna." I tightened my hand around Aria's. "This one does." The gold light struck the moonwell. The curse shattered with the sound of 1,000 broken vows finally coming undone.
Chapter 11. Aria. When the curse broke, the first thing I felt was Landor. Not through smoke, not through pain, not through the thin, smothered thread I had fought to reach inside the prison. Fully, his fear, his fury, his love. The fierce, golden certainty of it moved through me with such force that I nearly fell. Landor caught me before my knees gave way. Of course he did. The moonwell cracked down the center, black water spilling across the crystal floor. Wherever it touched the stone, violet flame hissed and died. The walls trembled. Above us, somewhere deep in the ruins, men shouted and wolves howled as the Eclipse Court's ancient wards began to collapse. But I could only look at my husband. He had chosen me. Not because it was wise, not because it preserved the throne, not because anyone had taught him that love was the answer. He had chosen me when every piece of magic in that cursed place had demanded he do otherwise. My hands gripped the torn front of his shirt. "You meant it." Landor lowered his forehead to mine, his breath unsteady. "Every word." The bond between us opened wider, warm and bright, and I understood what had always been waiting beneath the caution, beneath the fear, beneath the vow. Not arrangement, not only mating, fate, chosen and fated, both. A sound drew my gaze toward the moonwell. Seraphine stood at its edge, one hand braced against the cracked stone. The flawless sorceress was gone. Her pale hair had loosened around her face, and the ageless smoothness had begun to fade from her features. Not with ugliness, with life, with time, with grief. She stared at us as though she had never seen anything more impossible. "He chose you," she whispered. Landor's arm tightened around me. "Yes," I said softly. Seraphine's face twisted, not in rage this time, in pain. Real pain, the kind no curse could feed on, the kind no revenge could sharpen into a weapon quickly enough. "He was supposed to choose the line," she said. "They always choose the line." "Perhaps they did," I answered, "but he is not them." Her gaze moved to Landor. For a moment, the centuries fell away from her eyes, and I saw the woman from the memory, the crowned Luna in the white throne room, the woman who had loved a king and watched him give his loyalty in pieces until nothing whole remained. "I was his wife," she said. "I know." "I was his queen." "I know." "He made me nothing." The words were small enough to hurt. Something in me softened, though I did not forget what she had done. I did not forget Dana. The dead Lunas. The kings poisoned, the heirs hunted, the women raised to believe their highest purpose was a beautiful death. But I could look at Seraphine and understand the first wound without excusing everything that followed. "He failed you," I said, "but we were not the ones who betrayed you." A tear slipped down her face. It looked strange there, human. "The sorceress promised me I would live to see his line end." "The sorceress lied," Landor said. Seraphine gave a faint, broken laugh. "No, she told the truth cruelly. I did live to see it end." I looked up at him, then back at her. Seraphine's eyes rested on our joined hands. "His line ended with the king who would sacrifice his Luna," she said. "Whatever comes after you is something else." The moonwell gave one final shudder. A figure of pale light rose from the broken water. A woman with dark hair and sorrowful eyes. Eloan. I knew her without being told. She stood beside the well, one hand over her heart, watching Seraphine not with triumph, but with grief. Seraphine turned toward her, and all the fury left her face. "You!" she breathed. Elowen did not speak. Perhaps she could not. Perhaps the dead had no need for words in places where truth had finally broken through. She only extended her hand. Seraphine stared at it for a long time. Then she wept. Not elegantly, not quietly. She wept with the force of centuries, with all the love she had bartered away and all the hatred that had never warmed her. When she took Elowen's hand, the darkness left her. No scream, no explosion of power. Only a long silver breath, and then the woman who had built the eclipse court dissolved into moonlight. The ruined chamber went still. For the first time, the air smelled clean. Landor turned me gently toward him. "Are you hurt?" "Yes." His face went hard at once. I touched his cheek. Not beyond healing. He closed his eyes for half a breath, covering my hand with his. Through the bond, I felt the words he did not say. "Never again." I answered before he could speak. "Do not put me behind you forever because of this." His eyes opened. "I mean it," I said. "I was trained to stand between you and death. You will be tempted to lock me away in silk and guards. I have already considered it." Despite everything, I laughed. The sound came out weak, but it was real. Landor's gaze softened with such tenderness that I nearly forgot the ruin beneath our feet. "I will fail at it," he admitted. "You are impossible to lock away. Remember that." "I will remember many things." His hand moved to the side of my face, careful around a bruise I had not yet felt. "I will remember that my wife is terrifying with a sleeve blade. I will remember that my mother kept more secrets than any of my spies. I will remember that no crown is worth your blood." I swallowed past the ache in my throat. "And I will remember that I do not have to love you from a distance to keep you safe." "No," he said, "you do not." Above us, Edrin shouted our names. The violet wall had fallen. Landor lifted me despite my protest, which earned him a look that would have made a wiser man reconsider. He only said, "You may argue when you are not bleeding." "I can argue while bleeding?" "I know. I am choosing bravery." Against my will, I smiled into his shoulder. By dawn, we emerged from the ruins. The black crystal towers no longer glowed. Without the curse, they looked ancient and empty, tangled in vines beneath a sky turning gold at the edges. Landor carried me past the broken western ward, past the place where the eclipse court's marks had faded from stone, past the men who bowed their heads when they saw us. Not only to him, to us. Weeks later, when we returned to the palace, Landor opened every sealed room Dana had left behind. We found records, names, warnings, the true history of the hidden Lunas, women who had fought in silence, women who had died smiling at feasts, standing in doorways, drinking from cups first. We read each name aloud, then we wrote them where the kingdom could remember, not as secrets, as honored protectors. The Luna vow did not end that day. It changed. No longer a vow of distance. No longer a vow that demanded a woman die before she could be known. A new vow was written beside the old. The king and Luna would stand together. Truth between them. Love before pride. Choice before crown. That evening, Landor found me on the moon balcony overlooking the silver gardens. The blossoms had opened beneath the stars, and the glass trees chimed softly in the night wind. He came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. "Are you memorizing the kingdom again?" he asked. I leaned back into him. No. No. I am enjoying the scenery. His laugh moved through the bond, warm and low. For once I did not pull away from the tenderness. I let it fill me. Let him feel how deeply I loved him. Landor turned me in his arms and kissed me beneath the open sky, not as a king claiming his Luna, but as a man holding the woman he had chosen. When he drew back, his thumb brushed over my ring. I love you, Aria. The words still moved through me with wonder. I smiled up at him. I love you too. And for the first time since I had been chosen, trained, and bound by vows I was too young to fully understand, I believed I would not have to die to fulfill them. I had been raised to be his shield. I had become his wife. And now, finally, I was free to live as both. Thank you for watching Imprisoned Luna. If you would like to read the expanded edition of this story, including a bonus epilogue chapter, check out my Inkit page, Angela Bright. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can be notified when a new episode is released.